Hi, okay, welcome back to our New Zealand series, and as you can see, we're in a completely different place that you haven't seen before, and we will get there. As you may know, we have been traveling New Zealand for the past 7 months. We have been living in the South Island in Queenstown. We bought a Land Rover Discovery 1 that we had been traveling all through the South Island with, and we've seen some amazing sights like Milford Sound, Doubtful Sound, the Catlins, Lake Tekapo. Where else have we been?
Wanaka, Christchurch.
And it really has been amazing. And we've been sharing it all here with you. Now, in the past month, we let you guys know that we are leaving Queenstown and moving to the North Island. And then last week we left the country. We'll get to why, but so much has happened since our last week's video. And before we move forward in our New Zealand series and our vlogs, we wanted to fill you guys in on what the hell has been happening, because you're gonna feel like there's a lot of missing puzzle pieces. So let's get into it in this video, tell you kind of what's been going on, and then we can get back to our regularly scheduled vlogs.
So first, I think it makes the most sense to go over the original plan and what we were supposed to have happen before we came to the North Island. So the original plan was that we quit our jobs, we gave our 1 month notice to our employers, and we made a video about leaving Queenstown.
Which you guys saw, and we did do those things.
Yes.
We were gonna take 10 days to up to 2 weeks exploring the rest of the South Island, kind of like on our way up to the North Island, things that we hadn't seen before. And we had a deadline to get to a house sit that we're doing through Kiwi House Sitters, so we had to make it here on a certain date. And then we got a super last minute work opportunity. Like, we got our flight tickets the day before we left to do an Instagram campaign, which is really exciting, in Abu Dhabi of all places. And because we had already quit our jobs and our employers already knew that we were leaving, we decided to just cut into the time that we were gonna take driving up to the North Island and turn our 2-week road trip into a 1-week road trip so that we could take this really exciting opportunity. This is literally our dream, to work with tourism boards. So we thought that was really exciting, and it was really exciting.
But of course, this would cut into our road trip time making it up to the North Island. So meanwhile, while all of this is going on, we had prepared our vehicle for the WAF certification after replacing a panel on the side because of a dent, which I had to source from Dunedin, and it was just like this whole big mess around where I had to strip off the old panel, put a new one on because of a tiny little dent on the corner.
But we did pass the WAF. Our vehicle passed the WAF. So for those who don't know and who aren't from New Zealand, it's basically like a mandatory safety check for your vehicle. And here in New Zealand, you have to get them once every year. It's like an annual inspection. But if your vehicle is an older vehicle, you have to get it once every 6 months. So our WAF actually expired, and so we had to get a new one.
So now that we had our WAF certification, we were stoked. We were so ready to just like make it up to the North Island. We're like, sweet, we can go on this trip, no worries. One of the things that had nothing to do with the WAF certification was we were leaking oil out of the rocker cover gaskets. So I had gotten this fixed anyways because I didn't want to be leaking oil all the way up to the North Island. Unfortunately, I think when those gaskets were replaced, it created a lot of pressure in the system, and then another gasket down by the oil pan had blown. So we went from leaking a little bit of oil from the engine bay to leaking a lot of oil from underneath the vehicle. We were going through an entire jug of oil in like 2 to 3 days. As this is all happening, I'm starting to notice a bit of a knock in the engine. So I'd replaced the spark plugs. There was actually a compression issue within the engine. So because of all of these issues coming up super last minute, we just left our car at the mechanic and just said, fix what you can before we went on our trip.
We literally drove our vehicle to the mechanic with our bags packed, took an Uber to the airport, and went to Abu Dhabi. Guys, the trip was amazing. If you haven't watched our videos on our trip in the UAE, it was our first time actually in the Middle East, and we're really wanting to go back. Such a great trip. Everything went so well. When we get into the rest of the story, I still have absolutely zero regrets for going. There's nothing that we could have done in that week. We would have just been carless in Queenstown, because little did we know that our car had to just go to the mechanic that week regardless. And everything was working out well. We got on our plane home, we were coming back, and the pilot goes, okay, cabin crew, prepare for landing. We all put our seatbelts on, tray tables up. We are ready to land. Our plane starts going down, and then as soon as we're landing in the Queenstown airport, our plane can't land because of bad weather.
And we flew around the air for about an hour and a half to 2 hours.
We went to like a holding bay, like in the air.
Yeah, we just flew around just waiting to see if the windstorm would pass. Unfortunately, it did not.
And let me remind you, today was the day we were supposed to go pick our car up from the mechanic before 5 p.m., before they closed. It's already 3 p.m., so time is of the essence. And all of a sudden we hear that we're gonna be landing in Christchurch.
We went inside and tried to figure out what the hell we were gonna do next. At this point, we were honestly just like laughing. We need to be up at the North Island for a house sit in like less than a week now. And we get to the ticketing kiosk and they tell us that there's no flights going back to Queenstown until Friday, and this was Wednesday.
And we had to be at our house sit on Tuesday. So they put us in a hotel room in Christchurch. We spent the evening in Christchurch, and then we actually heard that they were able to put us on a flight the next day to Wellington, and from Wellington we would fly to Queenstown. Okay, to our pleasant surprise, we have a voucher from the airline, $90 each to spend at the restaurant here at the hotel. We are definitely taking advantage of that voucher, but we did purchase our own beer as well. I feel like it's much needed now after this very long, chaotic travel day. And I mean, honestly, like, we're at this point right now where we're just like, all you can do is laugh. Like, all you can do is laugh.
So our food has finally arrived. I got the veggie burger with fries, and Rachel got a Thai curry. Is that right?
Thai curry.
A Thai curry.
Anyways, while all of this is happening, we call the mechanic and we say, oh, we won't be able to pick up our vehicle until tomorrow. And he tells us that he didn't fix the problem because the problem was going to cost over $2,000, like minimum $2,000 to fix.
It'd be more than that.
Basically, to fix the problem, he would have to remove the transmission, which is obviously a big job. And not only would it cost over a few $1,000s, but it would also take time. Like, we don't have the time, quite honestly, don't have the money. And we have to be in the North Island in like 4 days.
He said, I would not drive this vehicle up to the North Island. We just finished our breakfast. This whole travel experience getting back to Queenstown has been so chaotic, and I'm like in disbelief that we have to go hop on another plane to go up north to the North Island to Wellington, then catch a plane from there back down to Queenstown. I'm so sick of being on planes at this point. I just want to be on the ground.
We go up to Wellington. We have a layover in Wellington, and we get on our flight to Queenstown. It's not quite the tour of the country that we thought that we were gonna get on this trip.
We've landed here in Wellington, despite it being quite windy, and we only had like 30 minutes to catch our next flight, and I think the flight that we just got off of is the same flight that's now gonna take us down. Let's just get the hell out of here, man. It's been too damn long of traveling.
Never a dull moment, I guess. Finally, we landed in Queenstown. We had too much stuff to really fly to the North Island. Like, we didn't pack to fly, we packed to drive. So we decided that we would rent a car. So we landed in Queenstown, went to the rental agency and picked up a car. And we had one night to pack up the car and kind of clean up our place so that we could get our bond back for our apartment, make sure it was nice and clean.
Yeah, these were some very long travel days. The flight from Queenstown to Abu Dhabi was like a 17-hour journey alone. And that's not counting now not landing at Queenstown, flying around for an hour, then going to Christchurch, staying the night there, then going up to Wellington, then flying back down to Queenstown. So it's a lot of travel. So thankfully, the Land Rover was drivable enough that I could at least get it from the mechanic back to our house.
And thank God, while I was still working at the gym, I was telling my boss about like just problems we were having with the Land Rover weeks ago. And I was always imagining like worst case scenarios. What if we had to abandon our Land Rover in Queenstown? This is just something I'm always thinking of, the worst case scenarios.
It's always good to be prepared.
It's good to be prepared. She was like, girl, I have a property you can park it on. If worst case scenario, if you can't drive your car anymore, we can put it there until you can sell it or something. So we always kind of had that in the back of our minds. I have no words. I have no words for how grateful I am for her. Quite literally the best boss ever. So I had to send her that kind of text being like, hey. Obviously, Land Rovers, a lot of people hate them, but there are a lot of people that really love them and have a bunch of them and use the parts and like all of that. So we were just really hoping to find a good buyer. And luckily we had somewhere to keep it until then. Pulling into Christchurch after driving for 6 hours, we were back to where we started. It was really surreal leaving the Land Rover this morning because despite all the problems, I mean, that's our car that we've been driving for the past like 6 months, and we've had so many like fun adventures in it, and we really want to take it on this adventure. But as you know, we've simply just been going through it the last few days, and we're just taking it like step by step. So we'll see what's next.
So we just got into the gorgeous suburb of Christchurch called Sumner. First stop was the skate park, where I immediately got recognized as Canadian. Made us feel like we should go get some Caesars. And we did hear that on the beach there's a sweet little Canadian bar that we can get Caesars at. So we're gonna go check that out now.
I just love being near the ocean. That is just something that makes me so happy. Look how cool this is though. And look, like the thing is that it does suck because on our way up, we already were cutting our road trip shorter. And then even on this, shortened version, we still had some things booked. Like we were gonna go swimming with the dolphins in Kaikoura. We wanted to spend a couple of nights in Wellington, and we just didn't have time to do any of that whatsoever. We just had to huff it up to the North Island in a rental. That we're gonna have to return.
But now that you are filled in on probably our most chaotic travel journey we've ever experienced, I'm sure we'll experience more one day, because this crazy travel life, I don't think is gonna stop anytime soon.
And we chose it.
We chose it.
We did choose it.
And like I said, all we could do was laugh at one point. I think that's the best way to handle it, is to just take the ups and downs and just roll with them. In our next video, we will be covering our journey from the South Island to the North Island. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it, and we will talk to you again soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.